Good evening, all. Today we had our all-day sit with Lama Michael, and the theme that he chose for today was the four thoughts that turn the mind. And he offered some extensive opportunities for contemplation of the four thoughts. And the four thoughts that turn the mind are often presented as foundation contemplations. Things that we can appreciate, contemplate about our current situation that will lead us to appreciate the circumstances that we're in, take seriously the challenges, understand the dynamics, and therefore we'll be able to apply ourselves to the practice. And this is a very important aspect of contemplating the four thoughts, contemplating the preciousness of human existence. In particular, the preciousness of a human existence where we have the opportunity to practice the connection to the Dharma. The second contemplation is the contemplation of impermanence, which includes the appreciation that our precious opportunities are fleeting, that this life itself is uncertain in duration. And the third contemplation is that of often karma, but more broadly, contemplation of cause and effect, contemplation of the operation of how things play out in this interdependent circumstance that we find ourselves in. And fourth is the contemplation of the faults of this, of confusion, the faults of samsara, the defects of, or the lack of reliability of conditions, the lack of reliability of depending upon our confused approach to reality. So these are all good things, and they're all accessible. We can all begin rather simply looking at our experience and saying, oh yeah, if I really do think about it, I have lots of opportunities. This is a remarkable situation that I should take advantage of. And it's easy to see, oh, I'd rather not think about it, and I'm generally culturally encouraged not to think or talk about it very much, but I will die. There's no if about that. And it's easy to see that if we really pay attention to the things that we do and the results that flow from that, that we can become more informed, better able to act skillfully in our life. And it's very easy to appreciate that acting out of confusion generally leads to suffering in the near term or the long term. one of the things that can happen when we become accustomed to contemplating the four thoughts is we can become kind of confident that we understand them, and a little bit bored perhaps with being reminded of these rather obvious things. But one of the things that we talked about today at some length was how each one of these contemplations can lead to the most profound point possible. So in that sense, they're not merely preliminary contemplations. That each one could in fact be the key, if we choose to look deeply into it, to contemplate it, and then to examine our experience very directly in light of that contemplation. That each one could be the key to the most profound insights possible. And while we may say that contemplating these four might encourage us, say, in our practice of calm abiding, to take the opportunity for the practice, to take the practice more seriously, to add a little energy or zest, that we could also see that the practice itself will allow us to see more clearly what's arising in our experience. So if we take, for example, the contemplation of impermanence, just looking at the flow of our experience, the more stable our attention, the more we've cultivated the ability to relax and be present with what arises, the more directly we will be able to experience impermanence. The more we'll see just what this is. We'll be able to shift from just understanding the idea that things are impermanent. My life is impermanent. We'll be able to shift from that intellectual understanding to a direct experience. As the mind settles, the subtlety of this experience will unfold naturally. So if we go for refuge and generate the aspiration to develop our practice so that we may be of deep benefit to others, perhaps we can, as we begin our practice, using whatever object of meditation that you're familiar with, just to begin with some sense of appreciation that as we just rest our attention on the object of meditation, or just rest the attention in the unfolding of experience, that we'll be able to appreciate directly the experience of impermanence. So we can begin.
Until the summit of enlightenment is reached, I and all beings go for refuge to the sources of true refuge. I will now practice the absorption of calm abiding in order to release all beings from their particular suffering and establish them in lasting peace and happiness. Until the summit of enlightenment is reached, I and all beings go for refuge to the sources of true refuge. I will now practice the absorption of calm abiding in order to release all beings from their particular suffering and establish them in lasting peace and happiness. Until the summit of enlightenment is reached, I and all beings go for refuge to the sources of true refuge. I will now practice the absorption of calm abiding in order to release all beings from their particular suffering and establish them in lasting peace and happiness.
When we move and stretch, it's a perfect opportunity to notice all the fleeting changes. The flow of sensations, the movement of attention from one part of our body to another as we stretch. As we settle back into meditation, we have the opportunity to look more subtly an opportunity to look at more subtle fluctuations. Quality of attention, the nature of the whatever experience we've chosen to settle our mind on.
By this virtue may I quickly realize Mahamudra and establish all beings without exception in this state.
Thank you. It seems as the time between now and when we move to the center grows shorter, the announcements grow longer, which reflects the level of intensity of activity. I don't think we could have picked how to create a more perfect storm than to have center being new center in renovation, Kempo Rinpoche coming, the move to the new center and all that happening within a week or two of each other, also coinciding with when the 3-year retreat people are shifting to kind of an entirely new body of practice, and so Lama Michael and Lama Tar are fully engaged with that, and we have Lama Drupchu come in to assist with that, and busy as can be with the renovation work. So there's lots to do, and for anybody who has time to assist in any capacity, whether it's organizational, construction-oriented,
mowing the lawn.
mowing the lawn. Somebody wants to show up over there and mow the lawn, that would be just swell. It's pretty soon we'll have to hire goats.
Yeah. Is there a lawnmower over there?
I'm not sure.
I thought maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know. I almost thought Adele had taken one. Maybe we don't have one.
We made some smashing, wonderful success this last week with finishing off our foundation work and making more of the framing. And as my joke of the day is that previously this church was actually named the Church Without Walls. And we've done so much remodeling and demolition that now it is in fact a church without walls, at least inside. But if you want to see it in this condition, you have to hurry now. Don't be late. You'll transition to having actual walls again. So you will no longer be able to engage in the exalted practice of walking through walls after the Shivat comes.
This is the last week
The last
to
week
gain
for
the CD of walking through walls.
yes. So let's see. We have on the 13th of this. Is it the 13th?
Which is this next Saturday.
This next Saturday.
This very next Saturday.
This very next Saturday.
Lama Michael will teach from 9 to 12 on the ultimate reality that's referred to in the 7 points of mind training. So it will be quite good if you can come to that. It's better if you've been engaged with the mind training class, texts, meditations, but no one will be turned away. It's just that it will not, the class won't have a lot of time to give a lot of background. We won't be going through all the aphorisms. It will just be this one very potent part. So that's this next Saturday. And this Thursday, before that Saturday, you could come to the mind training group and get all ready for Saturday.
From 0 to 60 in 1 evening.
Right, well, I wouldn't say already, but perhaps a little bit.
Get a flavor.
Yeah, flavor. So feel free to drop in. Yeah,
And after the class on the 13th, we're going to be moving things from here down to the neighborhood. What's it called?
Neighborhood cleanup.
Cleanup.
So
Yeah.
just taking some things
We're
out of the
looking for
house.
Looking for some strong people to move a file cabinet up out of the basement for one thing.
and we have lots of old carpets and lumber and stuff out there.
Yeah.
We hope they'll take. So,
And
yeah.
if we had lots of extra people, if we actually have all the parts to the tent, I was thinking about at least
Oh, yeah.
assembling the tent to the extent to where we
That
could
tent.
wash it off.
Yeah.
This is a big, huge
20 by
community-sized
30
tent
tent.
that's
That's-
going to be set up over at the new center.
Do you have a date for that setup yet?
Well, I was thinking about this Saturday, but
Now Saturday's seeming filled up a
that's what I was
little.
saying. If we
Well,
had a
the
lot,
things
Or
here.
group meeting?
then
take
things
very
here
long.
are the priority.
We have a new meeting.
Oh, we have a meeting.
Well, there's the meeting and there's moving and there's the tent and
Anyway,
so.
All right, so I guess I
And Mama
won't,
Michael's teaching.
I guess I won't try to have the tent set up on Saturday. Maybe Sunday.
A little later, yeah.
Maybe Sunday.
Maybe Sunday.
Maybe Sunday.
One other thing to just note is on the next first Sunday in June, we will not have an all-day set. We will have half a day, I guess,
Mhm.
or
Half day.
9 to 11, or it's not quite clear.
It's 9 to noon, I thought.
9 to noon, okay. And then that afternoon will also be a chance to do some physical moving, cleaning. We don't know quite what yet, but there'll be plenty to do. So you can still plan the whole day with KCC, but instead of sitting the second half, we'll run around together. What else?
Mama Droop. Mama
Long
Droop,
June, the 25th,
On the group
24th,
yeah, 24th, that's right.
Wednesday.
Wednesday evening. Talk and Q&A, and he's a very dynamic guy who did the first 3-year retreat under Color of Shea, and then he went on to lead 3-year retreats. He was one of the few Western teachers who've been asked to do that. In the early days, he spoke Tibetan and translated, and now he's part of the Sadra organization. That's part of what's supporting our 3-year retreatants out there, and translating a lot of books, et cetera. So anyway, we've asked him to talk about bringing the Dharma to the West and making it accessible without losing authenticity. And so that'll be just Wednesday, 7 to 9 on the 24th. And all these things you can register online.
You can now register for the events with Kemper Rinpoche at the end of June.
And that's a huge opportunity. Do not miss it.
Yes.
It could be the only time in your life that you will get to be with such a being. And it's just before the 4th of July. 4th of July is like Tuesday. This is that whole weekend before that. So cancel going out of town and instead go deep into the mind and heart. You can always always go to the beach another time.
And with that, let's go see if there's anything left over from the potluck.
There is cake and cookies left over from the potluck. I think they're both homemade.
Yeah.
On the table.
Is Northrop coming with Kemper Ricochet?
Well, Northrop is not part of the party this time, because Eric is friends. But we have invited him to come, and we're